And Harry and Meghan going to another country, pretending like they're royals when they're not. And they're doing it literally like days after Prince Andrew, ex-Prince Andrew, was arrested because they want to just really cause that stress in the royal family.
You know what's seriously wild? Queen Rania of Jordan, one of the most photographed and admired queens on the planet, was right there in her own country this week, in her palace, in her city, on her own home turf. And somehow, during all that time, she didn't have even a single spare minute to greet Meghan Markle. Not a quick handshake, not a polite hello, not even a simple hallway photo. That kind of silence hits loud. It doesn't feel random. It doesn't look like an accident. In circles like this, silence can speak louder than a speech. And once you really look at what happened, the reason behind it starts to look a lot less mysterious. So here's the scene.
Harry and Meghan are back at it again, being disaster tourists, because apparently they have nothing better to do than waste government time and resources, in this case, for the country of Jordan and the WHO and UN's time.
Harry and Meghan arrived in Amman, Jordan, for a short 2-day visit tied to work with the World Health Organization. On paper, the schedule looks serious and very polished. They visited refugee camps, stopped by hospitals, and joined a roundtable with global health leaders. Cameras followed the whole thing. Press. Crews were there. Every step was photographed and reported. It looked official, organized, and very carefully planned. Now, here's where things get interesting. Their team made sure to describe the trip as a visit, not a tour. That tiny word choice matters more than people think. A tour usually means official royal duty under the crown, but Harry and Meghan stepped away from that role a while ago, and that decision changed the rules around them. Still, even without calling it a tour, the visuals told a different story. Motorcades rolling through the streets, security teams surrounding them, meetings with international figures. The whole thing looked extremely royal from the outside. And then there's the bigger layer behind Jordan itself.
All they had to do was shut up and do nothing. And Prince Harry and Meghan Markle were probably going to get their best news cycle in years, because we know deep down they want to bring down the British royal family.
This wasn't just some random place picked off a map. Jordan has deep ties to Catherine, Princess of Wales. Back in the mid-1980s, her father worked there, and Catherine spent part of her childhood living in Amman. That connection stayed close to her heart. When Prince William visited Jordan officially in 2018, he openly talked about how special the country was to his wife.
The World Health Organization, the government of Jordan, and others are making here is enormously appreciated. So thank you for coming. Why is a British ambassador welcoming them on a visit when Meghan Markle has trashed everything, and Harry, about the British government?
It wasn't just politics, it was personal history. That bond goes even further. Queen Rania herself attended the wedding of William and Catherine. That moment is well documented and remembered in royal circles. So when Meghan suddenly appeared in Jordan for a high-profile visit, especially so soon after William's recent trip to Saudi Arabia, it made some observers raise their eyebrows. In global diplomacy, timing almost never falls into place by pure chance. Timing is strategy, timing is messaging, and Queen Rania is known for being sharp and media savvy. Now here comes the moment that really turned heads.
Harry and Meghan were going to do a 2-day visit to Jordan. Why? To visit Palestinian refugees, which we are not to take as any sort of reflection on their political ideologies, even though obviously visiting Gaza refugees does have a bit of a potential political ramification, especially when we know that Meghan is diehard liberal. So she is probably anti-Israel, maybe. I don't know. But it's a distinct possibility. And when this news came out, I'm like, right, of course. You know, Prince William was just in Saudi Arabia a couple of weeks ago, and Harry and Meghan managed to arrange a Middle East visit themselves right after.
King Abdullah II and Queen Rania did not meet Harry and Meghan at all. Not publicly, not privately. No palace invitation, no friendly welcome at the gates, no photo standing in front of royal flags, nothing but complete silence. And sure, some people tried to suggest it might have been a scheduling issue. Maybe everyone was busy, maybe calendars just didn't line up. But in royal circles, meetings like this don't simply slip through the cracks. When someone still carries the title Duke and Duchess of Sussex, communication communication channels absolutely exist. There are diplomatic teams, palace staff, planners, and advisors whose full-time job is arranging meetings exactly like that. If Queen Rania had wanted even a short greeting or quick photo opportunity, it could have been organized in minutes. That's just how these systems work, so the absence didn't look like confusion or chaos. It looked very intentional. And here's the deeper layer that people in royal watching circles immediately noticed. Optics matter a lot. One single photo of Meghan standing beside Queen Rania would have shot across the world in seconds. Headlines everywhere. Social media exploding. That image would have suggested approval, connection, and royal alignment. But that photo never happened. Inside the world of global royalty, silence can sometimes protect alliances and avoid complicated headlines. It can quietly draw a line without causing public drama. Queen Rania didn't criticize anyone. She didn't release a statement. She didn't explain anything. She simply didn't appear. And sometimes that quiet choice says more than a press conference ever could. Because a moment like that, standing shoulder to shoulder with a respected queen in a country that holds deep meaning for Prince William and Catherine, would have carried huge symbolism. One photograph like that could have told the world without anyone saying a word.
Meghan Markle couldn't even pass the foreign officer's exams test. And it's highly doubtful that she actually graduated from university because her picture at the Northwestern yearbook is not even there, in spite of the fact that they gave the students almost 2.5 weeks to schedule a time to get the picture taken. Allegedly, she's been very, very angry that the focus is on Prince Harry and not on her, in spite of her best effort.
We're still relevant. We still belong in these circles. But Queen Rania of Jordan never offered that stage. No palace backdrop, no shared spotlight, no smiling photo side by side, just restraint. And in royal diplomacy, restraint can be a very powerful message. That level of restraint, that's discipline at the highest level, and viewers noticed it immediately. The internet wasted no time reacting, and some of the comments started spreading fast. One post that gained serious traction read, "Fairy telling at least one king knows how to treat these two." Another person wrote, "Queen Rania obviously could not be bothered with irrelevant fake royals." The tone online was sharp.
She's part of many scandals, yet the palace is interceding on her behalf. So are we under any doubt that this is any different? Because why are they getting that? Harry and Meghan Markle would not be able to spot kindness or charity, even if it slapped them.
Sometimes brutal, and the engagement numbers kept climbing. People weren't just casually scrolling, they were watching every detail closely. Then something else happened during the Jordan trip that got people talking even more. Meghan was filmed kicking a soccer ball while visiting a youth refugee camp. The moment looked designed to feel relaxed and natural, like a friendly interaction with the kids. But within hours, social media detectives started posting side-by-side photos. On one side was Meghan kicking the ball. On the other side were older images of Catherine, Princess of Wales, doing the exact same kind of activity during a royal visit years earlier. The comparisons were hard to miss. Similar pose, similar setting, same kind of community outreach moment, but many viewers felt the tone came across very differently. And this is where people online started noticing a pattern that raised eyebrows. First, Prince William makes a high-profile visit to Saudi Arabia. Then only days later, Harry and Meghan announce a trip to the Middle East. Catherine has long-standing ties to Jordan from her childhood.
And the fact that they have had to rely on him to make this visit happen says a huge amount. Now, in their briefing to the mainstream media, which we'll get to shortly, Harry and Meghan insisted that they had informed Buckingham Palace of their visit. Oh, big hug from Dr. Tedros. God, these two are completely delusional. They have no idea what they're doing here. They have no idea that Dr. Tedros would have to be so desperate to want them there.
Soon after, Meghan appears in Jordan too. None of these things prove anything by themselves, but when the timeline stacks up, observers start asking questions. Even deeper historical moments started entering the conversation. Diana, Princess of Wales, was famous for visiting hospitals and connecting with patients in deeply human ways. One of the most memorable images from her legacy shows her holding patients' hands without hesitation, breaking barriers and showing compassion in a very direct way. During the Jordan visit, Meghan was also photographed holding a patient's hand inside a hospital setting, with photographers clearly capturing the moment from several angles. Some viewers said moments like this felt familiar. Others believed it looked like someone trying to recreate a powerful royal image from the past. For some observers, it didn't feel random at all. The impression they described was someone attempting to rebuild a version of a royal role that had once been stepped away from, but doing it independently with a personal media strategy and their own style of public appearances. And here's where things become uncomfortable for many people watching from the outside. The more these visual parallels appear, the more comparisons start happening. And comparisons, especially in the world of royalty, can be very unforgiving. Catherine doesn't need to prove her place in royal spaces. Her role developed over years of public duty, and
Ask Thomas Markle, ask Prince William, ask Queen Camilla, ask King Charles. It's laughable. They are delusional. There's no matching up. There's no connection, Tash, between their personal lives and what they see as their professional lives.
No, I mean, it's almost like they live in an alternate reality. They're famous, they're infamous for the destruction that they caused to the royal family. The biggest destruction, I guess, that happened, or at least tried to happen to them since the abdication. And we know that the problem was that they lied. So much of what they did was lies, and so much of what they did had monetary gain out of it. They did it for financial reasons.
responsibility after marrying into the royal family. She operates inside that system every day. For many observers, she doesn't have to recreate the image of royal life because she's already living it. Then another layer of the story began spreading online, and it sparked an even more emotional reaction. Meghan's father, Thomas Markle, is now around 80 years old and has faced serious health struggles over the past few years. Reports have said he experienced a stroke and later underwent major medical treatment that included the loss of part of a limb. He has been recovering mostly out of the public spotlight overseas.
Oh gosh, he looks like he's had the living life sucked out of him. He looks utterly miserable. There's no light in his eyes. He's perpetually angry. He's perpetually unhappy. He looks drained. He looks exhausted. He looks like he hasn't slept in a week. But then even when he was at the celebrity all-star basketball court, yes, he was fine when the cameras got in his face and Meghan tapped and rubbed his arm furiously like he was a genie in a lamp. And then he put on a face and was like, oh yes, we're so in love. We're so in love. But when those moments happened, when they didn't realise that the cameras weren't on them, when they didn't realise, Harry has the exact same look. He looks traumatised. He looks completely exhausted all of the time. He looks very, very unhappy.
At almost the same time, images from Jordan showed Meghan standing inside a hospital environment near prosthetic equipment, appearing thoughtful and emotional while holding a patient's hand. Those images quickly circulated across social media. Many viewers couldn't help connecting the two stories side by side. The contrast became a major talking point in comment sections everywhere. One comment that spread widely said, "She can fly to Jordan, but she cannot fly to the Philippines." Another person added, "Donated money for prosthetics for strangers, not for her own dad." Some of these remarks gathered hundreds, sometimes close to 1,000 likes in a short time. The reactions were intense because people felt a strong emotional tension in the situation. Soon, one particular image dominated headlines. Meghan standing in a medical setting near prosthetic limbs, looking compassionate and reflective. At the same time, reports about her father adjusting to life after losing part of his leg were circulating online. That visual contrast fueled debate across social platforms. Supporters argued that public humanitarian work and private family relationships are completely separate matters. Critics questioned priorities. The conversation grew louder by the hour. No press strategy, partnership, or carefully selected appearance can fully control
Andrew being removed from the line of succession. And this is very important. This is important for the country, and it's important for the king and the royal family, because unless King Charles and his family, if you like, successfully project the truth that Andrew is now nothing to do with them, is not connected to them in any way.
how the public interprets powerful images placed side by side. When visual moments collide with personal headlines, the internet does what it always does. It analyzes everything. Compassion can absolutely be shown in public. Family struggles can remain private. But when both stories unfold at the same time, people are going to talk about it. And this time, they talked loudly. Then came the moment that truly caught the attention of royal watchers. When Harry Harry and Meghan arrived in Jordan, they were personally greeted by Peter Hall, the British ambassador to the country. Cameras were rolling, witnesses were present. He welcomed them warmly and publicly thanked them before they were received at his official residence, the British ambassador's residence. That is not some casual coffee meetup where people drop in for small talk. That setting is structured and tied directly to diplomacy. Moments like that are planned carefully because every detail sends a signal, and this is where the story suddenly gets complicated. Harry and Meghan's team reportedly told journalists in London that the Jordan trip had nothing to do with the UK government. According to that message, it didn't represent the crown at all. The palace had simply been informed as a courtesy. That was the official explanation. But then something interesting happened. The British ambassador to Jordan, Peter Hall, gave them a very visible welcome and hosted them at his official residence. That raises an obvious question. Which version is accurate? Because in diplomatic circles, events like this rarely happen without coordination. Either Ambassador Hall made that decision completely on his own, which would be unusual in such a structured system, or someone within the British establishment quietly approved it beforehand. High-level diplomacy does not run on improvisation. There are briefings, internal conversations, and approvals that happen long before cameras arrive. If a quiet green light was given somewhere behind the scenes, that could explain something many people have been asking for years. Why do the titles still remain? Because here's the reality many observers point out. As long as Harry still holds the title Duke of Sussex, it carries influence that reaches far beyond him personally. Diplomats recognize it, governments acknowledge it, international organizations respond to it. Titles like that are connected to centuries of institutional weight, and at the center of that decision stands King Charles III. A widely discussed theory suggests that the king has hesitated to remove those titles for one deeply human reason: hope that his son might eventually return to the royal fold, hope that relationships, even damaged ones, could somehow be repaired over time. Whether that hope is realistic or not, it adds a powerful emotional layer to what otherwise looks like a very cold constitutional choice. Now it's worth looking at Harry himself for a moment, not with anger, not with cheering, just with honest curiosity. He was born into one of the most extraordinary public roles in the world: access to global leaders, worldwide attention, and massive platforms for charity work. Projects like the Invictus Games genuinely helped people and changed lives. He had reach, he had influence, he had a built-in global microphone from the moment he stepped onto the public stage. Then he stepped away from that entire system. He described royal life as restrictive and difficult, saying he needed independence and space to build a life on his own terms. Fast forward to Jordan. There he is again at a World Health Organization conference table. Cameras focused, a structured agenda in place, officials gathered around. Meanwhile, Meghan participates in outreach visits that quickly become the most widely shared images from the trip. Some viewers watching the footage said Harry seemed quieter and more reserved than in earlier years. One comment that circulated, widely read, "All partners of a narcissist have that tired, sad, haunted look." That statement reflects one person's opinion, but it spread rapidly online because people were studying his expressions very closely. When observers compare photos of Harry from nearly a decade ago with recent images from the Jordan trip, many say they notice a difference. The posture, the facial expressions, the overall energy. Whether those interpretations are accurate or not, viewers pay attention to those small details. Years ago, he spoke openly about wanting freedom from the rigid structure of royal life, yet now he appears at major international events again, sitting slightly behind his wife during certain moments while cameras capture every move. That visual dynamic sparked a lot of conversation. Not necessarily harsh criticism, but genuine curiosity. People keep asking the same question: how exactly did this path unfold? And surrounding all of this is the broader situation inside the monarchy itself. King Charles III's recent public appearances have led to widespread discussion about his health. Longtime royal watchers say they are observing the situation very carefully. When leadership within a centuries-old institution feels uncertain, every move suddenly becomes magnified. Every overseas visit, every title, every handshake caught on camera. That's one reason the Jordan trip didn't land like just another international visit. For many observers, it felt more like a signal flare, something that might carry deeper meaning about positioning and future roles. Now, here is the part people rarely say out loud, but many seem to be thinking. This Jordan trip was not only about humanitarian work or health conferences, it was also about optics. Optics, timing, influence, and how all those elements lined up together. That combination is exactly what made royal watchers lean forward and pay close attention. Think about branding for a moment, when Harry and Meghan stepped away. From official royal duties, they explained that they wanted independence, their own projects, their own voice, their own lane outside the palace system. And to be fair, they did build platforms, media partnerships, public speaking events, global visibility. That part is real, but here's where the twist appears. The more their public appearances visually resemble traditional royal engagements, the more the public starts asking a simple question. What exactly is the difference? Motorcades arriving with security, formal receptions, conference tables with international organizations, carefully staged hospital visits with photographers present. These are not low-key community meetups. These are high-level public optics. And in the world of diplomacy and royalty, optics matter a lot. That tension sits right in the middle of the story. On paper, this was described as a private humanitarian visit, but visually, it looked remarkably similar to a classic royal engagement, just without the palace officially attached to it. That gray zone is exactly where the noise begins. And once noise hits the internet, it spreads at lightning speed. Some viewers said the trip looked polished and professional, but also a little distant. Others defended it as genuine humanitarian outreach that deserved respect. But nearly everyone watching agreed on one thing: it didn't feel random, it felt carefully planned. There's also a bigger strategy question floating around. If you're building a global public profile outside the royal system, do you fully lean into that new identity? Or do you subtly mirror the structure of the royal life you stepped away from? Because the moment you start mirroring it, comparisons begin. And comparisons can be brutal. Every handshake gets analyzed, every outfit becomes a headline, every moment of body language is slowed down, replayed, and debated online. That's the reality of global fame in 2026. Nothing simply happens anymore, it gets dissected, piece by piece. Another detail added even more heat to the conversation. There was no joint statement from the Jordanian royal household about the visit, no shared press message, no coordinated appearance, just two completely separate lanes. And in diplomatic circles, that kind of silence stands out. Silence is rarely accidental. Sometimes it's neutral, sometimes it's strategic, sometimes it's simply about maintaining boundaries, but it almost always carries meaning. Now place that silence next to something else from earlier in the trip, the visible welcome from the British ambassador. Suddenly, the whole situation starts to look like a split screen. On one side, a formal diplomatic greeting and a stay at the ambassador's residence. On the other side, complete quiet from the Jordanian royal court. That contrast is what made the visit feel layered and complex. Then there's Harry's role in all of this. For most of his life, he had one of the clearest identities in the world. Soldier, founder of the Invictus Games, working royal, the younger son of a future king. His public narrative was simple and easy for people to understand. Now that narrative feels more fluid, less defined. Some moments during the Jordan trip showed him focused and engaged during policy discussions. Other moments placed him more in the background during outreach events that drew the cameras. The dynamic shifts depending on the setting, and viewers notice that instantly. The question many people are asking isn't meant to be harsh. It's curiosity. What exactly is the long-term vision here? Is the goal to build a completely independent global presence? A parallel path that operates outside the royal system while still carrying the weight of old titles? Or is it something else entirely? Because those titles still matter a lot. Titles open doors. Titles activate diplomatic protocol. Titles carry centuries of built-in influence even when someone is no longer performing official royal duties. The echo of that influence remains, and it's powerful. The Jordan trip didn't explode online because of scandal. It exploded because of symbolism. Who welcomed them? Who didn't? Who stood beside them for photos? Who stayed completely silent? In royal circles, absence can sometimes speak louder than applause. And right now, that silence is the moment many people keep replaying. Here's where the pressure surrounding the monarchy itself begins to enter the story. Prince Andrew, Duke of York, has faced intense public scrutiny in recent years. Sarah Ferguson has kept a noticeably low profile during many international moments. The royal institution has been navigating wave after wave of controversy. Some longtime observers say it's the most challenging period the monarchy has faced since the abdication crisis of Edward VIII. That is the wider backdrop, and right in the middle of that complicated atmosphere, Harry and Meghan arrived in Jordan, a country closely associated with Catherine, Princess of Wales, and strongly connected to Queen Rania. They didn't arrive quietly. Cameras were present. Multiple outfit changes appeared during different engagements. Press briefings circulated through major media outlets. The messaging looked coordinated and controlled. The visuals were polished. The rollout felt strategic. Meanwhile, back in the United Kingdom, the response remained extremely quiet. There was no formal statement about the visit, no announcement about titles, no clear message creating distance, just the ongoing reality that the titles still exist, along with the earlier welcome from the British ambassador. And that detail matters more than people might think, because every single day those titles remain active is another day Meghan can step onto international soil and be introduced with royal styling. Another day where institutions, organizations, and officials respond to the historical weight attached to those titles. That is where the tension sits. Titles are not decorative. They signal hierarchy. They signal legitimacy. They open diplomatic doors around the world. And as long as the titles Duke and Duchess of Sussex remain attached, certain protocols will continue to follow. Some critics argue that appearing on global stages without the framework of official royal duty creates confusion. Others believe private individuals should still be able to support international causes freely. But one thing is undeniable. Optics shape perception, and perception shapes influence. And that brings the focus back to King Charles III. So far, he has chosen not to remove the Sussex titles. Whether that decision is based on strategy, restraint, or personal family feelings is something only people inside palace walls truly understand. But time keeps moving forward. Eventually, the question may shift toward the future, and that future often points toward Prince William, the Prince of Wales. Many royal observers believe that when William eventually becomes king, his approach could be firmer and more decisive. That belief circulates widely among commentators, whether it turns out to be true or not. So the final question hanging over this entire story remains simple but powerful. Queen Rania, longtime ally of the British royal family, guest at William and Catherine's wedding, and a respected global figure, was in her own country this week, and she chose not to meet Meghan Markle. In royal diplomacy, absence is rarely accidental. Was it a quiet signal, or simply a decision to maintain boundaries? That one quiet choice, controlled, calm, and completely wordless, may end up being the loudest moment of the entire trip. And if this breakdown got you thinking, drop your thoughts in the comments below. If this perspective made you see the story a little differently, make sure to subscribe and stay locked in for more deep dives like this. Don't forget to like the video and share it with someone who would find this story just as fascinating.